one of the things I realized is that it takes so much more than a certification to get that end result of landing your first full-time job. In thinking about making this transition into the Salesforce system, and whether or not to join the Talent Stacker program, like I don't know where you're at right now. You could be at a coffee shop somewhere. You could be in a room somewhere in tears and just really spending time on a screen to wash it away. You could be on a treadmill. I was on a treadmill. That's where it happened. I remember the little machine that tells you what your heart rate is. Like, the stress made my heart rate go even higher. Just in that moment of like, this is too much. Like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I want to do this. And I don't know how to step forward. And in that moment, for me, that dark kind of crossroads moment, that scary crossroads moment, what was really meaningful, really important for me was just this idea that at the end of the day, the longer I put this off, the longer my family and my loved ones will continue to deal with the worst version of me. Just the stress is really difficult to deal with. It's insurmountable. Family and loved ones deal with the bottom of the barrel version of me. And so for the sake of my family and my loved ones, for the sake of being a better version of me when I'm around friends, I knew I needed help. I needed help. I needed a faster result than I could achieve myself. And so in the end, like, this was the best decision. This was the best decision. And so for you, I would just tell you this, like, what's it gonna take so that you can be a better version of yourself when you're around the people you care about the most? And for me, Bradley Rice, the Talent Stacker and the members only program was what I needed to do that. You know, one of the most amazing things about Bradley Rice's program, at least for me, was how it opened my eyes to the potential of marketing through LinkedIn and how to get out there. I mean, it's just, I didn't even know that LinkedIn is the way that people like judge you and evaluate you and determine you. I was still thinking resumes and resume writing and crafting a perfect resume for each job opportunity that you apply for, and the game has completely changed. And so I think through the program, just being awakened to that reality, and then they're very generous with the training. You know, they give you tips and insights, you know, how to craft a summary, how to better describe your experience, even if your experience isn't specifically in the IT field, how you can find specific responsibilities within that experience that applies to the Salesforce ecosystem. Just being made aware of all of that was so monumental. And literally everything he says, you should just do it. But that connection would have never happened if not for Bradley Rice's program and me being willing to step into this with an open mind, just to be willing to hear something else that I might not know about. And in the end, redirected my life into a super awesome direction. Yeah, so I remember I got introduced to Bradley Rice and the Talent Stacker program back in the summer. And gosh, this organization is so generous with what they provide with free resources, the free 5-day challenge, everything that's out there on YouTube. And I remember I got all the way up to the point of getting a certification and even landing a volunteer job just through the free resources. And yet, even so, I kind of hit this slump. It's like I'd done 75% of the work and I wasn't gleaning the result. And I started to enter a really dangerous space of of discouragement. And so what the members only program did that was life-saving throughout this experience was the renewed encouragement that's only possible through networking and community. And what's so amazing about some of the live courses and webinars that took place is I couldn't make all of them, and yet they were always made available on the Facebook group or even on our portal, just to be able to access the content and still glean and learn and engage with other people who are walking through the same journey as you. It's so amazing how there will be some dark days where you can get really specific about your situation and how terrible it is and how maybe it's not going to work out. And then before you know it, Hope will post something on the Facebook group, or Anita will say something describing the exact same scenario that makes you feel like you're alone. And all of a sudden, like, you realize you're in a community. You realize that there's others walking this with you. And the thing about the Hopes of the world and the Anitas of the world is, man, they're just super optimistic about life, and they see things as glass half full, and it rubs off. It gives you enough to go another day. And again, before you know it, you interact with an opportunity, a guy who seeks you out, reads between the lines in your LinkedIn profile, and suddenly, wow, you've broken into the ecosystem. Yeah, I remember one of the biggest hesitations I had with joining the members only program was I felt like I was already certified and had accomplished some things along the way. And yet looking back on it, one of the things I realized is that it takes so much more than a certification to get that end result of landing your first full-time job, of making $60K at your first Salesforce opportunity. And when I mean about so much more going into that, there's the marketing component, how to improve your LinkedIn presence, even simple things as far as like how to prep for an interview, how to participate in the technical aspect of the interview. If you've never done a technical interview before, there's some tips and strategies there on how to engage with that. And so at the end of the day, what was so valuable about Bradley Rice's members only program is that it promised me more than just another certification, which I got another one. By the way, I joined his program, and within about a month, I got a second certification, even though I was already certified. And this is what I love about this program. It thinks through all of the outlying details involved to land that first Salesforce job. So prior to joining the program and getting involved with Salesforce, I had devoted the better part of a decade to coming alongside churches and faith organizations to improve team programming. I was compensated well, and there's great value in feeling like you're giving back to your community, and yet there was still a part of me that just sensed a dissatisfaction and exhaustion. And at the end of the day, that exhaustion, that dissatisfaction made me come home and be a really terrible person. It just wasn't fun to be around with at home, around my wife, around my family. And at the end of the day, like, I don't want my family having to endure the bottom of the barrel, just the scraps that are left at the end of the day. My family is the reason that I work, that I seek to provide, that I try and get better at my career. And yet here I was in a spot where I was in a career that was leaving me empty at the end of every day. And so I knew a transition had to happen. And over the course of evaluating a transition, unemployment came sooner than a plan on what to transition into. Some of it was COVID related, not entirely. Essentially, COVID just made things way worse at an emotional level, and I had to make a decision. But I'm grateful I made that decision, because unemployment kind of created an opportunity where now all of a sudden I had both the availability and the hunger to make this transition work. I don't know, there's just something about receiving a constant paycheck and then being tired at the end of the day that was just enough to keep you from really pursuing this transition. I actually passed up on this program a couple of different times. prior to signing up. And eventually I stopped and tried to identify, okay, what's holding me back? Price is a hurdle. At least, when in my situation, you're unemployed. And so that's significant. That carries weight. You think about kind of the timing. You think about, I've already done so much of the work myself, got my certification, landed my own volunteer job. And yet I remember thinking back, some simple math actually is very helpful in this process. And think about it this way. If you land a $60,000 job, that means you're making over $1,000 a week. And so what was so fascinating to me is that my options were I could pursue this job on my own and see if I can stumble onto the finish line, or to, okay, let's do it. Let's join Talent Stacker and the members only program and cough up the fee. And what's so interesting about that is in that situation, all Bradley Rice had to do was to help me land a job 1 week sooner than I could do it on my own, and it would break even. Like, that's it. He only had to help me land a job 1 week sooner than I could on my own. And this program would have been an even investment. Here's the truth. I guarantee you, Bradley helped me land a job months ahead of time. I guarantee you this program, with the networking associated, taking my LinkedIn profile literally years ahead of where it would have been on my own. Bradley Rice's program helped me land a job way sooner than just a week. Looking back on it, those hesitations, they don't make sense now. They don't make sense. They're real and they're heavy, and you should take time to process them. But I can't imagine that you'd get to the end result and you'd have any regrets. So normally when I'm working on Trailhead or studying for a certification or something like that, I break that up into chunks. And one of the things I like to do in that kind of 10-minute, 15-minute break is I'll go on LinkedIn just to engage. And one day I got a message from a recruiter who reached out and just described the opportunity, asked me if I'd be interested in speaking to their supervisor about it. And sure enough, it seemed like a position that could be a good fit, was right up my alley. They kept using the term Salesforce super user, which was right up my alley. And so then got to talking with their supervisor, which was just a great interaction. And what's so interesting about dealing with these recruiters is they can see stuff in your LinkedIn profile. They can read between the lines and recognize just the fit, the potential. To be true, maybe some of the fit and potential that I didn't even see. And honestly, that's just credit to the LinkedIn training that we get on how to make yourself super marketable and make yourself look better than maybe you even realize you are. And so one thing led to another. Essentially, a week and a half later, we got to a spot where I was interacting directly with the hiring manager. And that was so awesome. The hiring manager and I just clicked from the get-go, super similar stories. And now here I am, having been offered a full-time position, and can't wait to get started this Monday.